Pavarotti.
Pavarotti?
Pavarotti.
He gives me chills.
Let's listen to Pavarotti.
Hello. Welcome to The Revealing. I am your host, Pavarotti. I'm here to discuss the IDAHO4 case. Now, this is probably going to be my last investigation series video that I'm going to do for a little while. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One is old Pavarotti is under attack right now, and they know who they are. And you know, it's interesting. The closer I get to exposing the truth in this case, the more the people that should want the truth exposed come after me. No, this is true. Also, I now have a new Wi-Fi spot that picks up whenever I search for my Wi-Fi signal. It says FBI surveillance. And, you know, I know you can look it up, and a lot of times they'll say that that's just, you know, people changing the name of their Wi-Fi just to be funny. Probably the case in most cases, except I live in the mountains. And I know everybody in my general area, and none of them would change their Wi-Fi to that. So, I mean, there's literally 500 people in my entire county, and I live in a big county. You know, I'm remote. So, I'm going to back off just a little bit because of this, but I'm not going to back off on reporting on the case. I'll just back off on presenting my investigation. But don't you worry, I will continue my investigation, and I will just keep packing it up and packing it in. And then when the time is right, I will break it out. But don't you worry, in this one, I'm going to leave a final area of doubt now that we have gone through and I've showed you the victims' families in this matter and how they could even possibly contemplate on what this outlandish motive is for Bryan Kohberger when the victims' families are the shadiest individuals that I've ever investigated in my entire life. And we're going to get into that other family in this one. Not going to mention any names because I'm not trying to slander anyone. In fact, you'll just have to figure out who I'm talking about, I guess. But we're going to dive into it hard. And at the end of this one, I don't want to hear anybody talk about Bryan Kohberger's motive in the IDAHO4 atrocity, because there isn't one, but there sure is some shady goings on around those families. Let's do it. Now, in the beginning of this case, the investigators, as they're looking at an atrocity like this, you would think the first thing they would do is look at the people that surround them every day. And when they cleared them as suspects, then the next thing that they would do is look at their immediate family members. Now, when they looked at their immediate family members, I mean, they had to have their eyeballs pop completely out of their head with what they discovered. So what is really going on in this case? Because I've been discussing two of the victims' immediate parents, and in the past, I've discussed the other victims' immediate parents. Now, I believe one of the victims in the atrocity, the young man, had nothing to do with anything other than, you know what, he was in love with his girlfriend. But this particular parent is one of the most suspect in the bunch once I do a little bit of investigating. So if law enforcement would have investigated like I have, I know they would know this too. And in the past, you know, I've tried to connect this one to some very dangerous individuals. Well, we're going to take that a step further in this video. And my number one thought goes to, I mean, how many people would really have contributed all of those dollars to all of those GoFundMes had they known the entire truth about everything in this case? I mean, starting with just previous arrest records in Idaho and Oregon. I mean, we've got theft in the second degree in Hood River, Oregon. We got a DUI in Oregon. Failure to appear on a citation, violated treatment that he was ordered to in Oregon. Also in Oregon, theft in the first degree, major felony. Criminal mischief in the second degree. Theft in the first degree, major felony. We're talking over $12,000 in that incident. And then, of course, in Idaho, we've got a second DWI, violating his probation. Pretty serious charges. And we haven't even got into Washington yet. Dive into the Washington charges, and we've got 4 new case numbers for offenses committed. Now, I'm not going to dive into the particulars in these particular case numbers in this video, but I just want to make everybody aware of them. This is not a model citizen. This is practically a career criminal, but I think he's been able to hide most of his career criminal activities in the latter part of his life. But he can't hide career criminal activities of his close relatives. Now, we are all aware of his history, but diving in just as a reminder, his time in Lincoln County, Oregon, that resulted in burglary, criminal mischief, criminal trespass, and then other offenses such as burglary, criminal mischief, theft in the third degree. This is not a nice individual, and he's been in and out of the penitentiary for pretty much his entire existence. So with his violent nature and as much time in the penitentiary, there is no doubt, due to the penitentiary stays that he was in, that this is a very extremely likely candidate for being a member of that Aryan family up in Washington. And as you know, as we have speculated in the past, with the Hex investments with one Jesse James Bailey, trying to connect him to Jesse James through his brother is our best line of connection. However, it is very shady, and it's trying to make that connection with hard proof is a tough thing to do. So at this point, it's still speculation. But is the speculation growing stronger and stronger by the day? You tell me after you see this. Now, it's always been really hard to connect that brother to our key cities in this case because of all the time that he spent his life incarcerated. Now, we have, associated him with Oregon through arrests, and we've also associated him to other parts of Washington. But it wasn't until now that we can associate him with Spokane, Washington, as late as February 9th, 2021. As you can see, this was a ticket that he received for unlawful use of limited access road infraction. So what was he doing up in Spokane with the rest of the group that could connect to individuals in Rathdrum and Coeur d'Alene? But that's not all. Look at the date, February 9th, 2021. What happened not a month later? Now you can see on March 31st, 2021, less than a month later, a transient man faces unaliving charge in death of Carson resident. Let's take a look. 45-year-old transit man faces a charge of second-degree unaliving stemming from an assault on a Carson man, according to the Skamania County Sheriff's Office. Was originally arrested on suspicion of first-degree assault. However, following the death of the victim, his charges were amended to include the unaliving charge and first and second-degree manslaughter, according to a news release from the Sheriff's Office. Skamania County medics were dispatched around 3 p.m. February 20th to Carson for a report of an unconscious man experiencing seizure-type symptoms. The medics requested a deputy to respond because the patient, identified as Damon S. Valestra, 50, had an obvious injury to the left side of his face, which was thought to be caused by a fall from a seizure. Deputies were unable to gain further information due to an uncooperative witness, the sheriff's office said. Due to an uncooperative witness, the sheriff's office said. Those witnesses are often uncooperative in these matters. Valestra was stabilized and taken to Peace Health Southwest Medical Center in Vancouver. 2 days later, Valestra's son called 911 to report someone named had come to his home and assaulted his father. It was not a seizure as originally reported, he told police. Deputies also learned that Valestra remained hospitalized for end-of-life care, and he was not expected to survive. On February 23rd, deputies obtained video from the son's home. The sheriff's office did not detail what the footage contained. Additionally, came to the sheriff's office and was arrested for alleged felony assault after confirming details about what happened. Deputies obtained a search warrant and collected evidence from the home in Carson. Valestra died at the hospital the next day, according to the sheriff's office. Detectives are awaiting the results of an autopsy. The investigation is ongoing. Now, after doing a little bit more investigating, now, I cannot confirm this yet. This is just my opinion and speculation. But I believe that Mr. Nate was released from that Airways Heights Correctional Institution there in Spokane, that somebody that we know frequents the casino next door constantly. But I believe he was released there in February, and that's when he was ticketed for unlawful use of a road, of an access road, because I believe he had just been released. So he headed directly back to Skamania and went directly to Mr. Valestra's home and assaulted him and unalived him. That, in my opinion, seems like a direct hit from a dangerous individual who just was released from the penitentiary and immediately went back. So I believe he planned to make this hit during his release. So I dove in a little bit further into Mr. Valestra, and I found some history on him. Of course, he was a career criminal as well, involved heavily in the narcotics. And it was some of the areas of his arrest that really made me focus my attention on, because it wasn't areas of arrest that Nate there had. And, you know, Nate, he had all of his arrests in Oregon up there in Lincoln County. And this arrest, or most of his arrest, this Mr. Valestra, was actually in Hood River. So my eyeballs popped out once I seen that. You see, the gentleman he unalived, I didn't pull a lot of his offenses because he had so many, but I did pull one of his larger ones, and you can see it was manufacture, deliver of a controlled substance, 2 counts, possession 2 counts, possession 3 counts, endanger and welfare of a minor. I mean, this gentleman, obviously, I imagine he spent some time in the penitentiary as well. But this offense, as well as many others, occurred there in Hood River. And I'm wondering now if this was a hit that Nate was directing because of something from his past, something that happened in prison, or was this an order from possibly a sibling to go handle this? Because while I couldn't find any connections with Nate there to Hood River, I certainly found this connection right here. And this was a theft in the second degree by a certain individual that we all know. And you can see that was Hood River County District Attorney that was prosecuting him. So this may be an old beef that goes back with poor Mr. Valestra many, many years. And it sure is suspect to me. How about you? Which brings me to my final slide here, because this is straight out of the Idaho court documents as it relates to the Bryan Kohberger case. And this was a document that was filed on an order by Judge John Judge back close to the beginning of the case after the indictment occurred. And I'm going to just read this section to you. It says, during the hearing, representations were made to the court that are important to note. First, Gray represented both in briefing and during the hearing that the state has not shared any information regarding the case with himself or his clients, and that the state has not made any attempt to interview his clients. The state denied these allegations, calling them misrepresentations at best. In other words, lies at best. The state represented that it has shared information with the Gonkovs family, but must limit the information they share to protect the integrity of the investigation and the state's case. The state also represented that its investigators have attempted to interview members of the Gonkovs family, but that Gray has not allowed the interviews to occur. How is it that the family members of the victims, which would be the next logical place for investigators to go and get statements from after their immediate people surrounding them have cleared, how is it that their attorney has blocked them being interviewed by the investigators in this case? This is a travesty of justice, folks. When you look at the family members in this case and their backgrounds and history, they are the first people that should have been investigated as it relates to the IDAHO4 atrocity. And the fact that they have not made statements and not been allowed to be interrogated by the investigators is a travesty of justice. I think those subpoenas need to be issued immediately, and let's get a real investigation into this case going before it goes any further. Now, I have so much more, but I'm going to take a break for just a little bit, and I'm going to let justice be served in this case. When I say I'm going to take a break, I'm going to take a break from my investigation or reporting my investigation. I'm not going to take a break from this case. I will bring you a video every single day until this case concludes, and who knows, maybe after that. I'm going to cover either current news in the case, or I will continue to break apart every single court doc in this case until this thing comes to fruition. In the near future, I will return to my investigation, but I am going to give it a little bit of time between now and then because the attacks on me are quite severe. But if the attacks on me continue, even though I am letting up, just know that I have some bombshell information about things, and you were just given a tip of the iceberg with this video, and I will expose so much in this case that it will make people's heads spin. But please like and subscribe to the channel, post your comments, your thoughts, your criticisms, and until next time, Pavarotti's out.
I was an ordinary boy until I broke the rules my life destroyed.